"This demonstrates your lack of commitment to our organization," Richard said, leaning back in his ergonomic chair like he was bestowing a favor by terminating me. "My name is Marcus Chun. I dedicated the past 5 years of my existence generating millions for Nexus Pharmaceuticals, while my personal finances remained essentially stagnant. I'm 31 years old and still browsing discount racks. Still driving the same 12-year-old Corolla my uncle helped me finance during my second year of university." I sat there observing Richard Hargrove, our senior vice president of business development, with his bespoke suit and the kind of manicured appearance you don't naturally acquire in Portland, Oregon, in February, the kind you develop from strategic planning retreats to San Diego during the depths of winter. He was watching me, anticipating pleas or justifications or outbursts. "I understand," I said. His eyebrow twitched. Not the response he anticipated. "You're terminated. Effective immediately. You'll need to clear your workspace. Diane will accompany you to Human Resources for your separation documents." I nodded, stood and extended my hand across his imposing glass desk. He hesitated before accepting it. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said. The journey back to my workstation was silent. Everyone pretending to be occupied, everyone stealing glances. Information circulates rapidly in an open-concept office. I sensed their eyes following me as I retrieved a cardboard box from the supply closet. I didn't have much to collect. A ceramic mug from my brother, several quality pins my mother had given me, the small bamboo plant I'd somehow sustained under artificial lighting for 4 years. 5 years with this company, and everything I possessed fit into a box smaller than a toaster oven. Diane hovered nearby, access cards swinging from her lanyard, observing me as though I might pocket company property or sabotage my workstation before departing. I'd secured over $3.8 million in new contracts last quarter alone. $3.8 million. And they suspected I might steal office supplies. As I walked toward the elevator, Cameron emerged from his office. Cameron Walsh, my immediate supervisor. The man who'd claimed credit for several of my pharmaceutical accounts. The man who'd assured me on 4 separate occasions that my compensation increase was being processed and just waiting for Richard's signature. He avoided eye contact. "Be sure to surrender your access card at the security desk," he mumbled before retreating to his office. I stepped into the elevator, access card already prepared. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal. I didn't appear terminated. I didn't appear resentful. I looked unburdened, as though I'd released something heavy. I simply hadn't recognized it yet. I started at Nexus directly after graduate school. Master's in biochemistry with a business minor. Solid academic performance. Nothing extraordinary, except I could connect with people, genuinely connect with them, understand their challenges, and develop solutions. My mother always told me that an average salesperson sells products, but an exceptional salesperson solves problems. Mom had invested 28 years in healthcare administration, missed more than a few family dinners, but ensured we never experienced financial insecurity. When I secured the Nexus position, she was proud, said it was a respectable organization with potential for advancement. For the initial 2 years, I believed that, worked 65-hour weeks, absorbed everything about pharmaceutical distribution networks, and cultivated relationships with healthcare providers throughout the Pacific Northwest. I earned New Talent Award and then top performance recognition the following year. I believed I was constructing something meaningful. Then I watched Cameron receive a promotion instead of me, despite my performance metrics exceeding his by 80%. "He has more leadership experience," they explained. Then I watched him receive recognition for the Providence Health contract, a client I'd spent 8 months developing. Then I watched him acquire a company vehicle. Subtle things initially, meeting invitations that mysteriously never reached my inbox. Client information that arrived to me a day late. Comments during presentations such as, "Are we confident that's the optimal approach for this healthcare system?" Countless small wounds, day after day. I maintained focus and continued producing results. Continued delivering, until last month when I finalized the multi-care health agreement. $3.8 million. Our largest contract of the fiscal year. I traveled to Seattle 5 times using personal funds because the company couldn't authorize the expenditure. I worked through weekends, missed my grandmother's 80th birthday celebration. Made it happen. When the contract was executed, Richard organized a celebratory dinner for the team. Everyone except me. I discovered it through LinkedIn photos the following morning. When I finally gathered courage to discuss compensation, my fourth attempt, Richard informed me the timing wasn't appropriate. The company was reassessing its compensation framework. That evening, I updated my professional profile for the first time in 5 years. A week later, Elena Vasquez, a former Nexus client who transitioned to Horizon Medical Technologies, contacted me through LinkedIn. "We should reconnect," she wrote. We had coffee. She mentioned they were seeking someone to establish their pharmaceutical compliance division. Someone with technical sales experience in healthcare. Someone like me. I took one personal day. One day, I'd earned to interview. Someone spotted me in the reception area of the Horizon building and informed Cameron. That was yesterday. I remained in my vehicle in the Nexus parking structure for nearly an hour after security collected my access card. Just sitting there, climate control running, observing the building where I'd invested 5 years of my professional life. 5 years of early arrivals and late departures. 5 years of "we'll take care of you, and you're part of our family, and just be patient." My phone vibrated. A message from Cameron. "Regret how this transpired. Simply following protocol." I switched off my phone without responding and drove home. My apartment felt different upon entering. Emptier somehow, though nothing had changed. I placed my box on the kitchen counter and opened a craft beer. Then I sat on my sofa and did something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No emails, no calls, no proposals to review. I simply sat there, enjoying my beer, watching the late afternoon light shift across my living room wall. Around 8, I reactivated my phone for missed calls from my family. A text from my brother asking if I was all right. Apparently, Cameron had contacted him inquiring about my whereabouts, a boundary violation I hadn't anticipated. And an email from Elena at Horizon. "Can you meet tomorrow? 11 a.m.? The executive team would like to speak with you." I responded with one word. "Yes." Then I called my mother. "They did you a service," she said after I explained the situation. "Not what I expected to hear." "How exactly?" "They showed you precisely who they are, Marcus. No more uncertainty. No more maybes. Now you know." She was correct. All those occasions I'd given them benefit of doubt. All those times I'd questioned whether I wasn't working diligently enough, not demonstrating enough visibility, not navigating organizational politics effectively enough. All those instances I'd suppressed my frustration and persevered because I thought loyalty carried significance. It didn't. Not to them. I'd been terminated for utilizing one day, a day I'd earned, to explore what they would perpetually withhold: fair compensation, respect, opportunity. My brother joined the call. "What do you need, bro? Want us to come over this weekend?" "No," I replied suddenly. "I'm fine. Actually, I think this might be the best development possible." And I meant it sincerely. For the first time in a considerable period, I experienced something beyond exhaustion. Something beyond that persistent anxiety that had become my constant companion. I felt liberated. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Morning came, and I dressed in my finest suit, the one reserved for critical client presentations that Richard inevitably attended instead of me. I looked refreshed, confident, prepared. The interview at Horizon exceeded my expectations. They'd already verified my references, already consulted with 3 previous clients, including Multicare Health. They recognized my value precisely. They offered the position immediately. Director of Pharmaceutical Compliance. Double my Nexus salary plus performance incentives. I accepted without hesitation. "When can you start?" Elena asked. I smiled. "Immediately." I signed employment documents with Horizon that Friday afternoon. Began the following Monday. They provided an office with actual walls and windows, a corporate credit card, a team of 4 compliance specialists, and most importantly, they offered something Nexus never had: a transparent advancement pathway. "We want you to develop this division," Elena explained. "Build it according to your vision. Your reputation with healthcare providers is why we recruited you." For the initial 2 weeks, everything seemed ideal. I learned their systems, connected with my team, and developed strategic frameworks. I even sent LinkedIn connection requests to former Nexus colleagues. Most accepted. Several sent congratulatory messages. Cameron and Richard remained silent. I was unconcerned. I was too engaged with finally feeling professionally valued. Then the cease and desist letter arrived. Mr. Chun is violating his non-competition agreement. It stated, he is hereby ordered to terminate his employment with Horizon Medical Technologies immediately or face legal action. I'd never signed a non-compete arrangement. I was absolutely certain. I contacted Horizon's legal department immediately. Don't panic, the attorney advised. Forward all your Nexus onboarding documentation. We'll address this. That evening I searched through my files, located my original offer letter, my employment contract, and my most recent performance evaluation. Nothing regarding non-competition. Nothing about future employment restrictions. The following day, Nexus legal representatives submitted a document bearing my signature. A non-competition agreement dated 3 years earlier, shortly after my performance award. It prohibited employment with any competitor within a 150-mile radius for 18 months after leaving Nexus. But I hadn't signed it. The signature resembled mine, but I had no recollection of ever viewing this document. Did you sign anything during performance reviews? Perhaps something presented as standard documentation? Horizon's attorney inquired. I recalled my first performance evaluation after receiving the award. Richard had provided several documents, describing them as routine administrative updates. He'd instructed, sign where indicated. I trusted him. They're claiming Horizon represents direct competition, the attorney continued, which is tenuous since they provide compliance software while Nexus sells pharmaceuticals. But they're asserting considerable pressure. This could become expensive. Will I lose my position? I asked, the familiar anxiety resurfacing. Not if I can prevent it, but prepare yourself. They may attempt character assassination. This feels personal. It was personal. The next day, I received an email from one of my significant former clients at Nexus. Just experienced an unusual conversation with your previous supervisor, it read. He suggested you misappropriated confidential client information upon departure. Inquired whether you'd contacted me. I informed him you've always conducted yourself with absolute professionalism. What's happening? I forwarded the message to our legal team, hands trembling with indignation. They weren't merely attempting to prevent my employment elsewhere. They were actively trying to destroy my professional reputation, the very attribute that had made me valuable despite their efforts to marginalize me. That evening, my phone rang. Unfamiliar number. Marcus, this is Andrea from Finance at Nexus. Her voice was hushed, apprehensive. I shouldn't be contacting you, but you were always respectful to me. You need to know something. They're claiming you stole confidential files, but it's untrue. I observed Richard accessing the server room the day following your departure. He was downloading your entire client directory. Then he deleted the original files and claimed you must have taken them. Would you communicate this to my attorney? I asked. I can't, she replied. I need this employment. I just thought you should understand what you're confronting. She disconnected before I could express gratitude. I sat in my new office, gazing through the window at the Portland skyline, and realized this wouldn't resolve by simply walking away. They were determined to prevent my success, or they would attempt to diminish me again. And for the first time since my termination, I experienced genuine anger. The legal confrontation extended for weeks. Horizon supported me completely, but the stress was taking its toll. Each day brought fresh allegations from Nexus. Data theft, corporate espionage, contract violations. They were employing every conceivable tactic to see what might succeed. We need to establish leverage, my attorney advised. Currently, it's your statement against theirs regarding the non-compete. And although we suspect forgery, proving it will be costly. I nodded, contemplating Andrea's information about the client files, about Richard in the server room. There existed a pattern, willingness to fabricate evidence, to manipulate, to construct false documentation. What about my commission payments? I asked suddenly. My final quarter there, I secured the multi-care contract. $3.8 million. My commission should have been substantial, but my final paycheck was standard. No performance compensation. The attorney made notes. Good. That's concrete evidence we can investigate. That evening, I received a message from Cameron. We should speak. Not about legal matters. Important. Against better judgment, I agreed to meet at a coffee shop midway between our offices. He appeared haggard, circles beneath his eyes, wrinkled shirt. His typical polished appearance completely absent. I can't be associated with this conversation, he stated immediately upon sitting. I could lose everything. I didn't forge the non-compete. It's not isolated to you. Richard has implemented this practice for years. Has people sign routine documents during reviews, then incorporates additional pages afterward. The signatures are authentic, but the documents aren't what people authorized. Why tell me this? He stared into his coffee. Because you're not the first person they've targeted this way. But you're the first one who resisted, and they're frightened. Why would they fear me? I simply want to perform my job. Cameron leaned closer. It's not about you. It's about financials. The commission structure at Nexus isn't what anyone believes. The percentages in our contracts, they're fabricated. Richard has been diverting from every significant contract for years. That's why they're pursuing you so aggressively. They're concerned you'll discover it. My thoughts raced through all those contracts. All that revenue, the commissions never aligning with my calculations. The bonuses consistently less than promised due to adjustments and overhead allocations that were never clearly defined. How do you know this? I questioned. I discovered the authentic records accidentally. I was searching for a client file on Richard's computer when he was called from a meeting. His spreadsheets were visible. 2 separate commission calculations, the accurate figures and the actual disbursements. The difference transferred to an account labeled Executive Discretionary Fund. Yet you remained silent. His face flushed. I confronted him. He offered me a percentage. Said it was established procedure, that senior leadership had always operated this way. Said I'd earned my place. So you accepted? He didn't deny it. I have substantial mortgage obligations. Children in private education. I convinced myself it represented standard business practice. Why inform me now? Because they're not merely targeting you. They're constructing a narrative. Richard informed the board you manipulated the multi-care contract figures, that you inflated the agreement to secure larger commission. That's why they're claiming you stole files, to conceal the fraud they're attributing to you. I felt ice forming in my chest. That's completely false. Multi-care can verify the contract value. They've already begun creating documentation, backdated communications, revised agreements. They're meticulous, Marcus, and they have resources. I examined Cameron's expression, searching for deception. Why should I believe you? You've never advocated for me previously. He retrieved his phone. Because I preserved evidence. He displayed numerous screenshots, commission spreadsheets, email exchanges, fund transfers, all confirming precisely what he described. Send those to me, I instructed. If I do, my career at Nexus ends. Possibly within the industry entirely. You're already finished, I replied. The only question is whether you descend with them or help me expose this corruption. Cameron observed me intently, then began forwarding the material. The evidence Cameron provided transformed everything, not merely for my situation, but potentially for dozens of former and current Nexus employees who'd been defrauded of their rightful compensation. The scheme had operated for years, affecting millions in commission payments. This transcends a non-compete dispute, my attorney said after reviewing Cameron's documents. This represents systematic fraud, but we faced a challenge. Cameron refused to testify officially. The screenshots and forwarded emails would be considered hearsay without his testimony, and Nexus maintained substantial legal resources. They could prolong court proceedings indefinitely. We need additional evidence, she advised. We need someone with direct knowledge willing to testify. I considered Andrea from finance, but she was too fearful of unemployment. I needed someone with nothing to lose, or preferably, someone who had already lost everything. That night, I compiled a list of everyone who had departed Nexus in the previous 3 years. People who had resigned unexpectedly or been terminated under questionable circumstances. People who, like me, might have begun questioning their commission calculations. One name stood out. Jonathan Park, former top performer in the Western region, abruptly resigned last year amid rumors of compliance violations. I never believed those rumors. Jonathan was a family-oriented professional, involved in community leadership, and among the most ethical individuals I knew. I located him on LinkedIn. He was employed at a small regional distributor now, earning significantly less than his Nexus compensation. I sent a message. Need to discuss Richard Hargrove and Nexus commission structures. Urgent. He responded immediately. I've been anticipating this conversation. We met the following day. Jonathan didn't resemble someone with ethics violations. He appeared like someone carrying an immense burden. They terminated me because I discovered their accounting, he stated without preamble. Same records Cameron showed you. But I investigated further. I documented everything. Follow the money trail. It wasn't limited to commissions. It included expense account manipulation, supplier kickbacks, inflated project budgets. Richard and the chief financial officer maintained an elaborate system. Do you have documentation? Jonathan nodded. Everything. Banking records, communications, comprehensive evidence. I was developing a case for board presentation when Richard discovered my investigation. Suddenly, rumors circulated about compliance violations. Then a healthcare provider complained about receiving improper incentives, something I never offered. 3 weeks later, I was terminated. Why didn't you challenge this? Report to authorities? They threatened my family, Marcus. His voice remained steady, but his hands trembled slightly. Nothing explicit. Just a conversation suggesting my wife's teaching position at Westlake Academy might become vulnerable if I created problems. How my children might face challenges in their educational environment. They maintained influential connections. They communicated that unmistakably. I felt nauseated. But you preserved the evidence. Every fragment. On secured storage offsite. I've been waiting for someone else to notice. Someone they couldn't intimidate. Someone like me, I said. Jonathan nodded. You lack family vulnerabilities they can exploit. You've already been terminated. And critically, you have institutional support behind you. They possess resources too. We spent the subsequent 3 hours examining Jonathan's evidence. It was devastating, not merely for Richard and Cameron, but for half the executive leadership at Nexus. They had systematically defrauded their own sales organization of millions in compensation over at least 6 years. We must present this to authorities, I stated. This constitutes criminal activity. I'm prepared, Jonathan replied. But we must proceed strategically. These individuals won't surrender without significant resistance. That evening I contacted Elena and explained everything. This could become complicated, I warned. I understand if Horizon prefers dissociation. Her response surprised me. Dissociate? Marcus, we recruited you because of your integrity. We won't merely support you. We'll help you terminate this corruption. Nexus has operated unethically for years, damaging industry credibility. Someone needs to confront them. For the first time since this began, I believed victory was possible. The case developed more rapidly than anyone anticipated. With Jonathan's evidence and Horizon's legal resources, we didn't simply file a countersuit against Nexus. We submitted everything to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the State Attorney General's office. The investigation progressed quickly. Financial records were subpoenaed. Witnesses provided depositions. Former employees presented their own accounts of manipulation and fraud. 3 weeks after our initial filing, federal agents entered Nexus headquarters with warrants. I wasn't present, but Cameron contacted me that evening. They confiscated everything, he said, voice hollow. Computers, servers, documentation. Richard was escorted out before everyone. The CFO too. I remained silent. I've been suspended pending investigation, he continued. They're suggesting criminal charges are possible. They're probable, I responded. But your cooperation will influence sentencing considerations. A week later, Nexus withdrew their lawsuit against me. 2 days afterward, their stock value plummeted when the fraud investigation appeared in financial media. Former employees initiated class action litigation for unpaid commissions. Healthcare providers began terminating contracts, unwilling to associate with the controversy. Throughout these developments, I maintained focus on building my division at Horizon. I didn't participate in interviews. I didn't celebrate on social media. I simply performed my responsibilities. Then one morning, I received an email from Richard's personal account. We should discuss. I can explain everything. Meet me for lunch. I forwarded the message to my attorney without responding. The next day, the Business Journal published the headline. Nexus Pharmaceutical CEO and executive team resign amid fraud allegations. Richard's photograph appeared beside a statement from the board chairperson. We are fully cooperating with authorities and are committed to corrective action. I closed the browser and returned to work. For months after my termination, The court ordered Nexus to pay me $192,000 in unpaid commissions, plus damages. The payment arrived by courier the following week. I didn't deposit it immediately. I simply placed it on my desk and observed it, not because I needed validation, but because I wanted to remember what achieving justice had required. 1 year later, I stood before the Horizon compliance team presenting our quarterly performance. We had tripled our division's revenue, expanded into 3 new healthcare markets, and established a reputation for transparency with our commission structure that was attracting exceptional talent from throughout the industry, including 4 former Nexus employees who had participated in the class action settlement. The Nexus situation had faded from headlines. Richard and the CFO had accepted plea agreements. Cameron had avoided incarceration by cooperating with prosecutors, but his pharmaceutical career had effectively concluded. The company itself had been acquired by a competitor at a fraction of its previous valuation. I rarely consider any of them nowadays. After the presentation, Elena approached me. The executive committee approved your promotion to vice president, effective next month. I thanked her, genuinely appreciative, but not surprised. We had constructed something authentic here, something sustainable. That evening, I drove to my mother's house for dinner. She and my brother had relocated to Portland 8 months earlier, partly to be nearer to me, partly because my mother was finally prepared for retirement. She had followed the Nexus narrative carefully, sometimes more invested in my vindication than I was. "Proud of you, son," she said as we sat on her patio after dinner. "Not because you prevailed, but because you did it correctly. Didn't allow them to make you bitter. Didn't let them change your fundamental character." I nodded, watching sunset colors reflecting off Mount Hood. "It was never about retribution." "I know," she replied. "It was about truth." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "So," my brother finally said with a grin, "Vice President, does this mean you'll finally replace that ancient Corolla?" I laughed. "Perhaps, but I might keep it a bit longer. It reminds me of something important." "What's that?" "That the quickest route upward isn't cutting corners. It's building something enduring." My mother raised her glass. "I'll celebrate that sentiment." So did I.